All right, good morning, PTO on Ice crowd. It is 8:30, Monday. Happy springtime. My name is Mike Eisenhart. I am the lead faculty for the APHPT Population Health Division of Courses. And as you know, I get on Monday mornings and talk a little bit about population health. And so I thought today, I just couldn't not take the day. It was just an unbelievable day here in New Jersey. It feels like spring. So I got up early this morning and got a little run in, which was awesome. Not something I usually have the ability to do because I'm usually out the door pretty early. So just kind of took it in and enjoyed it. And that inspired today's talk. So let me go ahead and get my clock started here. Hold on one second. I almost forgot. I'm in such a relaxed mood that I didn't even set the timer. I don't even know what I would do. That's a weird thing for those of you who follow along. So let me get that going and we'll get started. Okay. All right. So this morning is really about fresh starts. And I just think it's such a great time of year to talk about that for a lot of reasons. I mean, there's just so many different reasons to talk about fresh starts during the springtime. Whether you look at it from kind of the the religious side of the equation. I mean, certainly two of the world's major religions had huge holidays this past weekend. Or you look at it from the seasonal perspective. Yesterday was the first day I had to mow my lawn. And so I don't know where you're at, but in New Jersey, things are beginning to pop. I would say in the last week, we've seen flowers starting to bloom and we've seen grass starting to grow, and it's like, it's here, springtime is here. So that was pretty good. And that's possible. Or if it's just a good time of year, just a nice season change allows you to kind of think about the fact that, a new cycle of whether you think of it as the circle of life and the Lion King, all the way to just it's a new cycle and time to stop for a second, pause, and master the transition and move on. And so what I thought about a little bit this morning, I got up and decided, all right, I'm going to go out for a run. And a little bit of it was inspired from yesterday. Yesterday I did a 5K with some family members, and it was a very different 5K. It was a beat the clock kind of a scenario. So it wasn't like everyone started at the same time and the beginning finishers won. It was more the opposite. It was actually everyone started just whenever you felt like starting, and the clock was counting down. And the goal was to get to the finish line pretty much at 0, 0, 0, 0. And of course, the person who did that the best was the person who timed out their run the best. So it was an interesting phenomenon. We did it in kind of a cross country style. So it was in a field, and the design of it was that it was kind of the finish was timed with sunrise. So at any rate, I got around the back of the course, and we're coming around this corner, and the sun was already kind of on. The light was coming up, and things are kind of creeping up. And in the distance, you could hear this, like, I don't know what you call it, like gaggle or herd or whatever the hell turkeys are called. But there was a whole bunch of turkeys roosting, and they were kind of back in the woods a little bit around this final turn. And I was running with my wife, and I said, man, do you hear that? And she's like, yeah, it's crazy. And it was like it was a little bit of like a, gobble, gobble. And then before you knew it, it was like this rumble of gobbles. And it was really kind of neat. And it was just kind of like dawned on me there for that second that, as we're coming around and you start to notice things, like I would normally never, ever in a million years try to notice some sound during a race. Like I'm just trying to focus on getting to the finish line as fast as I can. But obviously this was a different kind of race, and it was really more about pacing yourself. And so it allowed me to notice. And so I spent a lot of the day yesterday doing that. Just kind of walking around and trying to pay attention and noticing, what was going on in the world around me. And you'd be shocked, of course, how powerful that is when you actually have a minute to do it. So this morning, it just timed out well. I got up and I was able to get out on a run. And, I have a little kind of loop around my house. It's maybe 4.5 miles, something like that. And it's road in the beginning, and then you get on this trail. And this trail kind of comes back around, and it's, like a crushed stone trail. So it's pretty well, it's well marked, and it's not like, you're not focusing on not tripping and stuff. I mean, you're still able to pick your head up and notice. And so I'm running along, and I look off to the right, and there's this fox just kind of standing there. And he's watching me, and I'm sort of like noticed him and stopped and looked, and then I paid attention. And so I stopped for a second, and of course, as soon as he realized I was looking at him, he ran off about, maybe 50 yards, and then turned around and looked at me again, and then saw that I was still standing there, and then ran off a little further, and that was that. But it was just such a cool little moment, because it took a second for me to realize, like, hey, I actually, like, I enjoy being out here. Like, it was just a beautiful day. I mean, you can see the sky behind me. It's a beautiful day. Things are green. Flowers are popping everywhere. Thankfully, I don't have any kind of like seasonal allergies that I know of. And it was just, an amazing few minutes to enjoy the fact that I could be out and have the freedom to move the way that I chose. And I just feel like that is such a powerful thing that we sometimes take for granted. That we sometimes just kind of like, don't even like think about, don't even take time to really notice. And I think there is a huge, huge lesson for us, especially those of us who want to be in the health-facing space. We tend to be driven. We tend to be very focused and driven and want to, win the day, let's say, and kind of attack the day. And I think that there almost needs to be planned time for us to pause and then, really notice what's going on, pay attention, and then jump in and win the start. And I really feel like that's sort of the message. The message is if we can think about every single day as like, all right, we're going to have a fresh start with someone, whoever it is, whether it be ourselves. Like for me, it was myself today, no doubt. And yesterday was a signal. I don't know why that's the case. It's kind of stupid, I guess. But for me, the first lawn mow of the season is like, it signifies a change. It's like, it to me is like, okay, spring is really here. I had to cut the grass, like we're on our way to summer. I had someone tweet the Free the Oak account earlier last week and say, hey, are we doing this thing this year? And, again, it was like another signal, like, oh, yeah, we got to get started on that, got to get organized. We've got some stuff kind of brewing, but we haven't really put the hammer down, And I just think it's a really, really great year to do it. So or a really time of year to do it. So how do you take that concept, that freshness, that newness, the coolness of a new start, and how do you actually put it to your favor? Well, I have to give a shout out to Pat McSweeney. So many of you may know, Pat is spending 6 months with us here, and then we'll kind of go out and start his version of a proactivity in Ohio. And I think he's a couple months in, but he handed me a book a couple weeks back by Daniel Pink, and I'm a big Daniel Pink fan. I hadn't read this latest book. It's called When, and he goes into a lot about timing, and that's kind of the basic message of the book. And I'm only about halfway through it, so I can't really tell if I'm on track or not entirely. But one of the things he talks about is the power of the start, and how many different things in life we can get that little extra inertia that we sometimes need to make a change when we are willing to be in a fresh start mode. So like Mondays are a great time to do it. And when you look at sort of change initiatives, they're more successful on Mondays. And, around a holiday is a great time to do it because, again, it's just there's a natural chronicity that we sort of are willing to jump into. And so I wonder if we've ever sort of thought of that as a deliberate thing. The first session of the week that we're meeting someone, or the first time that we're seeing someone, in a case, like during the evaluation. I mean, we have this whole period where their psychology is on board, that they're ready to make a change. Are we really getting the most out of that? Are we magnifying the effect to the best that we can? Are we really, grabbing a hold of it? And I wonder if taking the time to actually, notice when people are in those transitions, understanding that they're like in a life transition and they're ready to make a change, is that at the root of kind of this, health-facing approach? Because there's no major need to do anything like monumental. We can just capitalize on that moment. We can just take that time and say, hey, like you're in a point now where, your life is changing a little, like things have obviously changed for you. Let's make the most of that change, is that something that we're willing to do? And I think that narrative and that conversation could go a very, very long way. Obviously, there's a lifespan component here. On the population health side, we, and definitely in the intro course, for anyone who's taking it, we talk about this idea that one of the axes that health-facing practice has to embrace is a lifespan concept, right? You have to think about the fact that at different stages of life, we're doing different things. We have different goals, we have different needs. And so as a professional, if we're going to be with this person kind of as a journeyman along with them, we have to respect those changes and know that when a person is in this stage of life, their entire world is different than when they're in a different stage of life. And maybe there's a reflection on us for that, right? When we're at a stage of life, we're often going to see the world through our own eyes. I mean, like we're going to see the world as we see it, and then we're going to project that onto the person in front of us. And is that a good thing? Is it a good thing that we're projecting, our, stage where we're sort of seeing the world on a person who's 25 years older in a different stage, or a person who's, 10 years younger and is in a different stage? and will we be more effective? Do we find ourselves more effective in situations where we are kind of in a mirrored stage with someone, where we have that relatability of, oh yeah, I'm going through that struggle too, and should we seek that out? There are a bunch of questions really, and questions I don't have answers for, but all of that comes from taking the time to notice. That's just sort of like my thoughts on the run this morning. And the wild thing is that I think, we often sort of think, and I definitely did this morning, like there's 5 other things I could have done today. And I just said, you know what, I'm going for that run this morning. It's a beautiful day. Like it's literally perfect weather to go out for a run. I've got to go do that. And so, taking that time actually gave me the moment to think and say, hey, like, okay, I can capitalize on this. How can I make the most of this moment? And this moment happens to be, a period of change for people. So I think that's kind of the main takeaway, and one that I would just ask anybody who's in patient care for sure, but anybody who really wants to bring a health-facing approach to the world. Like if you're trying to bring that to your community, you're trying to bring that to your town. If you really are trying to lift the burden of disease, to free the yoke. I mean, if you're trying to do any of these things, we obviously want the best, simplest formula possible. Like, let's not do it the hard way if we don't have to. And this is the time of year. I mean, like, we are there. It's only natural for people to want to move. It's only natural for them to have, fresh food available to them. I mean, this is the time of year that you can grab something at a farm stand for inexpensively. You can go and join a farm share program if you want. You can talk about that in your clinic. You could run that in your clinic, if you really wanted to. This is the time of year that people can be outdoors and exploring things. And instead of kind of like, sort of knocking the weekend warrior, can we build them up? Can we say, look, this is a great time of year to do it. Like, man, this is the time of year to do it. The weather's perfect. Like, it's going to get hot at some point. Grab it now. Can we put that little bit of a fire under them and say, like, yeah, like, listen, it's not going to be this beautiful forever. Like, you got to go get that run in today, or you got to go out for that walk today. Be outside, go explore a little bit, like let your body move. And can we use that as both a clinical pearl, actually in a more one-on-one interface, but then also in any time we're in a group, can we build on that concept of taking, the message of get out there and embrace your health, and that starts now. The only other thing I'll sort of mention in my couple of minutes left is that there's a joy in that. I mean, like I think there's just, we sometimes want to not think about how many, sort of dark and, dismal things are going on in the world. I mean, there's just a bunch. But there is something so powerful with the opposite of that, like that joy of like just getting out and like allowing yourself to go do something. And that joy is an incredible antidote to the, to sort of the despair that we're in many ways fighting against. I mean, in the courses we talk about the idea of lack of healthy behavior disease, which is of course something that, is a not a real thing, right? But we're just kind of building this case, this concept, that most of the diseases that we face are this kind of rooted in these like poor behaviors, these lack of behaviors for whatever reason. Maybe the environment sort of stimulates a person or blocks them in. Maybe the environment kind of keeps them on the negative path. But then on the flip side, we can look at this and say, well, okay, right now, like right now, master the start. This is the start. We're in it. The transition is over, or it's damn close, depending on where you are in the country. Can you absolutely master it? Can you actually get the most out of it? So where does that start? What's the action? What's the action for today? I mean, we can talk philosophically all we want. What's the action for today? I think the action for today is do it. Do it yourself. If you can't, bring someone along, do it at least for yourself. Get out and do something today. Find 5 minutes that you can master today. And talk about it, and talk about how much joy there is in it. Try something new, like let your body explore a little bit. Maybe let your palate explore a little bit. There are some early season vegetables that are kind of, got to be right around harvest time. Like grab them. Try a recipe. Talk about it if you're in the clinic. Bring it to your groups if you're in groups. And honestly, like design it in if you're working with populations. I mean, right now we've got a kind of a 6-week thing going on with one of our corporate clients, and they're 3 weeks in, and like that's the exact stuff that we're trying to do. We're trying to actually get them to just put a toe in the water and try some things, to experiment. Why? Because once you've experimented and you saw the benefit, all of a sudden it's not as hard anymore. it's not as like impossible anymore. It's potential now. Like it's gone from like, well, it can be done. Like I've seen you do it to know I can do that. Right? It's real for me. Like I did that. It wasn't that bad. And that's of course every time we talk to someone who's made a change, that's what they say. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Actually, now that I look back on it, it wasn't so bad. So the truth of the matter is that it's way harder to get started than it is to stay started. Inertia is one of our biggest barriers, and I honestly think like this is it. We've got probably, 7 to 10 days where it's going to just kind of be this like perfect, where the flowers are blooming and they're going to be like, that's it. They're going to be leaves and it's going to be on our way to summer. So master it. I think that's kind of the take-home message. Do it for yourself. If nothing else, do it for yourself. I can't tell you how excited I am to attack the day today. Why? Because I know already I've got my run in. I went out and I got a couple miles in and I feel good about that. I have a totally different energy attacking the day. And I think that, that we all have that same thing, whatever that means to you. Maybe it means a few push-ups at your bedside, or maybe it means you're going to go get that early morning, CrossFit session in, or maybe you're going to go and try a run today, or maybe you're just going to go for a walk with your dog, like whatever. But get out there, get started. That's number one. Win the transition, win the newness. 2, notice. Take a second to notice what's going on around you, and allow yourself truly to enjoy it. And if you do, you'll bring a whole new energy to the population that you're serving. And when you do that, it's contagious. So now we're putting the social science on our side. As soon as you do that, it's contagious. Other people want to do it. They want to jump on it too. And away we go. All right, perfect timing. There's the bell. The bell says it's time to be done. Got to put my coffee down so I can shut this thing off. Listen, it's only Monday. It is I don't know where you are, but where I am right this second, it's an absolutely gorgeous Monday. So if nothing else, live vicariously through me for a few minutes. Get moving. Do something. It's a fresh start. Win the start. And we can all take it from there. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have interest in this stuff, definitely think about jumping into the next intro cohort. The next intro cohort, I think, kicks off May 5th, so Cinco de Mayo, I think. Check the ICE website if you're interested in that. If not that, and you're interested in this health-facing stuff, nothing makes me happier than to know that every one of the ICE courses has some of this built in. And so definitely take a look at those, and if you haven't jumped on a course in a while, jump on it, because this is the time of year to do it. Invest in yourself. Invest in those of us, take the message wholeheartedly. Invest in yourself and win the start. Have a great day. It's only Monday. Make it count.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.